Welcome. You have made it to week 15. If you are here, congrats, because that more than likely means you are in the playoffs or you have something dependent tonight that will then lead you into the playoffs. And we're going to start out because there is a bunch of injuries that are going around. But before we get to that, Mike, I'm sure you saw the news. Phillip Rivers is going to be working out for the Colts on his birthday. Are you interested in having Phillip Rivers as a Colt again at all, or is it just me?
Um, you know, Philip Rivers in the league is exciting. I love Philip Rivers. He's just he was fun as as Chargers fans. We loved him, but he's just good character, good guy, and really good quarterback. I don't know. Does this have legs to it? I mean, we see what like Flacco can do, and Rodgers playing well. Last time we saw Rivers, now albeit it was COVID, it was the COVID year. Rivers actually had a pretty good season, led him to the playoffs, and I think he had a pretty solid season there. So I saw that and I was pretty shocked, but it's a fun story this time of year, that's for sure.
Well, and at this point, it's probably more than likely just going to be depth anyway because of the fact that Patterson's beat up. I mean, Richardson has orbital fracture. I'm not quite sure how that affects everything or if that makes it better or worse. But outside of that, the next option is Brett Ripien, which I'm good on that too. So, yeah, I was just
Yeah,
thought I'd bring that up because birthday, everything else going on. I had to at least touch on it.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a fun thing to follow for sure. I mean, man, the Colts though, tough to go from what 7-1 to now they're in this situation where they don't even have a quarterback. So it sucks to see, that's for sure.
Yeah, but we've talked about quarterbacks, so let's start with it. The Wire, as always, we will get you through players that are under 50% rostered, starting with the quarterback position, and I'm going with one that is kind of iffy to me, but has been playing so well. It's going to be Bryce Young, 20.4% rostered. He gets a Saint this week. Normally, this is an ideal matchup. They've been pretty good against quarterbacks. However, Bryce Young is coming off of a bye. I'm very curious to see how he does, especially after his last outing where it just looked like he couldn't do anything wrong and shocked a lot of people. I mean, putting up 22 points is pretty solid. So I'm excited for him, and I'm very curious to see if that turns into anything bigger or if he can continue that now with the bye coming off the bye. So uh, outside of that, going to make that one easy. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, we'll bring up Jacoby Brissett. I'm a little bit skeptical. Obviously, this is like ESPN roster percentage, I believe, or maybe it's overall consensus or something. But in teams there's a lot of like random leagues that people like quit after 2 weeks. So I don't know if Brissett's still available in your leagues, but I'll bring him up because in case he is, I think the guy's just been slinging it. Like he's literally had 40 or more passes in 5 straight games, and he's putting up points. So I still like Brissett. He had a solid game even against the Rams. And it didn't really matter. He put up 270 and two. He ran for 22. Like the dude's been awesome, man. It's been awesome to see. It's awesome for Michael Wilson. Wish we could see more Marvin Harrison and him together. Does play the Texans. I guess that's like the one. Be careful here. So I don't know if you want to trust Jacoby Brissett in your first round of your playoffs, but after that, if you move on, you get the Falcons and Bengals, and I like those matchups for quarterbacks and for Brissett. So I'll throw his name out there. Maybe avoid for week 15, but looking ahead for 16 and 17. JJ McCarthy, finally, we saw him look, good. He threw for 3 touchdowns, and he gets the Cowboys in week 15, which is a great matchup. Could be a bit of a shootout, so I don't mind McCarthy this week as well. So maybe if you are streaming quarterbacks, maybe you grab like a McCarthy and then someone like a Bryce Young or Jacoby Brissett for future weeks. Tyler Shuck brought him up last week in kind of deeper leagues, but I've kind of been impressed. I mentioned it last week. I kind of been impressed with Shuck in how he's played, and they're using him more on the ground as of late. He has 20 carries in the last 3 games. Ran for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked good. Looked athletic running the ball. I had a 34-yard touchdown, I believe, a touchdown run. So, he could be someone that you want to maybe go out there and stash. That's more for deeper leagues, I would say. Saints get the Panthers coming up here in Week 15, and then I will throw out Riley Leonard. Maybe it's Philip Rivers, maybe it's I don't know who else they'll have, but Riley Leonard is the backup for Daniel Jones, and he is probably gonna get. I don't judge what you saw yesterday on like, oh, this is what Riley Leonard is. I'm not trying to say he's gonna be awesome, but he's kind of he's a mobile quarterback. Like Notre Dame, when he was there at Notre Dame, they kind of ran like almost like a polished version of like the military academy type of offenses where it's like they were running like a lot of like triple option and stuff like that, and with a little bit more in the passing game. And for fantasy he could be interesting because he could run the ball. You're obviously not going to start him in week 1, but for deeper leagues or super flex leagues, like throw him on your roster. You could be, I wouldn't be shocked if this guy ran for 70 yards and Shane Steichen for 4 weeks just kind of gets in his bag and puts together this kind of crazy offense, high school military academy type offense, and it works for 4 weeks. So it doesn't work for a full season, but maybe for a month or something. So kind of a fun one there.
Yeah, and then I mean, do you? Okay, I'm going to ask because I don't know what the case is. I know Tyrod got hurt. Uh, any interest in Fields or Cook as a potential backup?
Fields, yes. I just got a sleeper update about someone adding Philip Rivers in a dynasty league, so just kind of funny. I knew it was gonna happen. I thought about it, like, do I go and do it? Um, anyways, for Fields, yes, just because despite what he is as an NFL quarterback, when the guy plays, he's good for fantasy almost every single week. He had a couple tough weeks there for sure, which led to his benching. But even then, like look at his last game he played. He had 116 passing yards and a touchdown, 67 rushing yards and a touchdown. Like he had 2 total touchdowns, 67 on the ground. Like that's good for fantasy. He's almost kind of like bust proof in that sense because he's going to run for 30, 40 yards every single week. So I would be interested. Not Cook though. I'm not gonna mess around with that.
Yeah, again, just bringing it up because people might be in trouble, and at that point, so adding the layers to make sure people are included. But the Jets do get the Jacksonville next week, Saints after that, and Patriots, which you don't love, and then end with Buffalo. So just throwing it out there, no matter what, all of these games, they should be having to throw more than likely, and their best matchup is probably Week 16 against the Saints, where they both are going to have to throw, and that's going to be an interesting matchup. So, again, just throwing things out there because you never know what people's waiver wires really look like. But I definitely agree. So, of these, I think my top 2 are going to be Brissett and Young. Is that where you are as well, or do you prefer McCarthy or Shook?
No, it's Brissett and Young. If you are looking for Week 15, I probably do avoid Brissett though, just because Texans, man, they are legit. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Brissett had a good game, but like, man, if you can't get 15 points from your quarterback in a playoff fantasy playoff matchup, you're probably gonna lose. Obviously, you want more, but like you can't get under 15 points. Like that's quarterbacks giving you 10, 12 points when the other quarterback you're facing gives you 25. It's just such a huge advantage. So I just think there's a lot of risk playing Brissett against the Texans. So yeah, I would say Young and Brissett. Brissett, if you're not looking for a Week 15 start, you're looking for like a 17, 16 or 17. So yeah, those would be my top 2.
Well, and I mean, you brought it up. Garbage time. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, that's where he really rules. And so, unfortunately, the Texans don't put up as many points as the Rams do. So you don't have that opportunity to potentially see him have to throw that 40-plus times again. So I agree. I'm definitely avoiding him this week. But for the actual playoffs, yeah, I'm more interested in using Young over him for at least the first one. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Get out of that. Move into running backs. And it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody, but Devin Singletary still at the top of my list, 32.5% rostered. Again, coming off the bye, should be a viable option. And when it is Jackson Dart, Singletary seems to be the one. Also, Tracy, before the bye, left with the game with an injury, so Singletary also gets a potential there. We'll see how that ends up shaking up throughout the week, but I still like him as an option. 32.5% rostered, so very widely available. And the other one I'm going to go with is Jalen Wright, 3% rostered. We keep hammering on have your handcuff. Well, Jalen Wright is the handcuff to Devon Achane, as we saw this past week. It wasn't Ollie Gordon. Gordon will still likely have the opportunity to score touchdowns, but Wright came in, looked really healthy, it looked really good. So it's going to be difficult to kind of get away from that. But you have to make sure that you have your handcuffs at this point. So those are the two I'm going to lead with. Who do you have, Mike?
Was there was there news about like Ollie Gordon and like was it disciplinary or like injury related? Because he was kind of like the backup there basically all season. Like he was kind of the second option, and then it was Jalen Wright this week, and I was a little bit like I like Wright more than Gordon, so I'm excited about it. But I was a little like, huh, I didn't really expect that. I thought it would have been at least a 50-50 split, not like I would Jalen Wright get like 25 carries or something crazy. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there was anything that came out about that. I don't know if Gordon was on the injury report heading into the week
Well, I'm
or
I'm
something.
pretty sure
Yeah,
he
it's just
was limited throughout the week because he had been dealing with a
okay.
knee injury, but I'm not sure. Even at that point, I mean, they're very different style runners. You're kind of seeing how that worked
Yeah,
out as well. So it's interesting to kind of see how that works out. And I still just think that I liked Wright before this season started. And so, but
me too.
being injured all the time, as we now see again with Keaton Mitchell, that if you have that kind of tag with you, it kind of unfortunately hinders you quite a bit. And when you get the opportunity, it's very small sample size to have, unfortunately. So
Yeah, I do think Gordon, if you miss out on Wright, Ollie Gordon is a potential ad as well, just in case. That kind of works out a little bit differently than how it did yesterday. So, yeah, speaking of handcuffs, I mean, Blake Corum, I'll start off with him, needs to be picked up, if not just for the handcuff to Kyron or even if you don't have Kyron, pick him up. But he's also getting to the point of like, he's kind of been fantasy like startable in the last couple of weeks. Now, going to be really hard to trust. Like I don't expect you to be starting him unless you play in really deep leagues. I'm talking like where you're starting 10, starting 12 in your starting lineup and stuff like that. Um, it was kind of like one big run that really made his game, but even then, he still had without that big run, like he still had I think 80 total yards and a touchdown. So he's not going to give you much in the passing game, but they've been using him more, and they kind of use him a little bit interchangeably. It's become a 50-50 split. So definitely pick up Blake Corum. Chris Rodriguez, I'll throw out there. I mean, it's just the guy where like he's getting touches. I'm not super excited about him. He's what we call a trap back. Like, yeah, he rushed for 5.2 yards per carry, but like when you only get 10 carries and no catches and no touchdowns, it's nothing, right? Even if he gives you 70, 80 total yards without any catches or touchdowns. By the way, he has one catch this year, one target, two targets, one catch. It doesn't. He needs a touchdown to really make. If you don't get a touchdown, you're going to get a 5 to 8 point game most likely. So, but it is kind of hard to find running backs at this point that are, playing as much as he is, or I don't think he's even playing a whole lot, but getting as many touches as he is. So, and Bam Knight kind of falls into that category a little bit as well. Don't know if we're going to see Trey Benson like man, what an opportunity he missed this year. Like, everything kind of fell into place for him, and then he got hurt after one game after Connor and stuff. So, but Bam Knight, he gives you catches, he gives you carries, he has 3 or more catches each of the last 4 weeks. So he's going to be pretty solid for PPR. Oh, they get a tough matchup with the Texans, but garbage time, he gives you 4 or 5 catches, he gives you 70 total yards. You're looking pretty nice there. So those are the three. Not as great as it's been in weeks past, I would say, for the waiver wire for running backs.
yeah, and I mean, I understand your point with Chris Rodriguez, but it's still coming down to the fact that this past game did not go as the Commanders thought it was going to at all. And so him not getting anywhere near the end zone is crazy, and isn't likely to happen moving forward. because their rest of season schedules significantly improved. I mean, they get the Giants, Eagles, if that's going to be iffy, but then they get Dallas, and so the opportunity should still be there, and it also comes down to whether or not do we believe that it's going to be Daniels, is it going to be Mariota? I think Mariota does better at this point, and I'd much rather save Jaden because he's clearly not well. We saw him get just beat up in that game, and it really hurt the team. And I think having the fluidity of having Mariota would have really benefited that team for the entirety of that game. And so
it's like Washington's making the same exact. Sorry, I cut you off there. That Washington's making the same exact mistake as they did with RG3. You know, like it feels like that. You know, over a decade ago now of the RG3 situation. Like it's history repeating itself. I hope not, but like it feels like it after the first couple of years here.
Yeah, and I again, the other thing is I also really like Corum because they're also bringing up the fact that you have a player that they're potentially going to be easing the work off of Kyron to make sure he's good for the playoffs, and they're like what Corum's doing. He clearly shows up when they need him and is doing an excellent job with it. I mean, the rest of their games aren't something that is super difficult, so they're going to be able to use him even more. And of course, at that point, you're excited to have a player that gets the Lions, the Seahawks are probably going to be iffy, but and the Falcons and Cardinals, you're able to kind of just cruise at this point with the rest of these matchups. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. So, yeah, I'm so outside of Singletary, who I think is my one, I think the next one I would actually really want would be Blake Corum. So,
yeah. I mean, if something happens to Kyron, like this guy is literally winning you. You know, something happens to Kyron week 15, and you move on. You're very good chance you're winning your championship because he's gonna go off. You know, for those last 2 weeks. So,
I agree. Evening Polo. Is Phillips worth a pickup? Not right now. We kind of talked about it at the top of the show, but it's interesting. It's definitely making us at least curious to see what they end up doing. I think it will be more based on as a depth piece of anything, just because right now Riley Leonard's dealing with injury, so they're not quite sure. So Brett Rippon would be the next person up, and I don't really want to trust that. So, but all right, we're out of running backs. We'll move into wide receivers. And before we do, Scott Hightower asks, confidence percent that Lamb plays this week.
Man, it's tough. He does have the extra few days, but kind of 50-50 to be honest. Like it's kind of how it is with concussions, right? So I hope he does. It was a bad one though. You could see it right when he went down. Like, oh yeah, something's not right. So then he looked okay after. I don't know, but I'd say 50-50. I don't know what else. I don't know if I have a lean either way, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's the extra days that kind of helped. I'm trying to look and see if he'd had one previously that knocked him out beforehand, and I'm not seeing. December 4th would be this year. I don't. Okay, so his last one was in 2021.
Okay.
I mean, I would probably guess that he will be back to play this game. So I'll go a little higher, and I'll put it closer to 65-70% that he plays.
Yeah. And you're right about Leonard. Just got an update saying that the Colts are now uncertain. Riley Leonard knee will be available for Week 15. So it is when it rains, it pours for the Colts. You know what they should do? Direct snap to Jonathan Taylor, man. Just build an offense around Jonathan Taylor. You know, I think Tyler Goodson's still there. DJ Giddens, like, just for one game. You could do it. You can get away with it with one game if you build the offense like that. Like, let's do it, man. Like, there has to be someone on that, a wide receiver or tight. Tyler Warren, he lined up at quarterback quite a lot in college. Like, I think he threw some passes there in college too. Like, let's do it, man. That would be so fun. So fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. That's unfortunate.
It's not. No.
It
Yeah.
you because you have so many players right now that are playing so well for your fantasy team that I know that's not
Yeah.
important to the Colts organization, but Alec Pierce, Pittman, Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor, like even whatever at that point it was Daniel Jones. All these were startable pieces that you're actively using, and so having this go down is just really going to hurt you potentially for the remainder of the season. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see um, how that ends up working out because it is just an unfortunate situation that too many of us end up finding ourselves in. So that in mind. I still am fine playing Alec Pierce because that big play is going to be there. Um, and if it is Riley, I still think that's a good option because, again, you talked about the RPOs. Well, he also liked to throw it deep, and Pierce is a deep guy. So it'll be very curious to see how that ends up working out. So, all right, one sec. Scott asks, "Is there any scenario you sit the Texans going forward?"
Texas
Are you talking about
defense.
defense, or I need some more clarification on that, Scott? But until you get to that, I'm going to go through wide receivers that I like. Starting with, shouldn't be any surprise, Jaden Higgins, 43% rostered. This team is still poised. They need to do the work. So widely available. I don't know why he's not higher. I know I was a little nervous with it, with the fact that, again, you're dealing with a player next to Nico Collins. However, with CJ Stroud back, that I had some worries around that, and he's continued to be the number 2 on this team, and I can't get away from it. So, and then Rome Odunze, he popped up on Wednesday. I talked about it on Wednesday because I saw that he had a foot injury, and we didn't know what that was, but him popping up with a foot injury scared me. So Luther Burden, 23.2% rostered. Again, limited snaps compared to everybody else, but still ended up seeing the most targets on the team. So really like him as a player. A lot of upside. He keeps building, and I'm fully sold that if Odunze's out, Luther Burden is going to be the one that I want to play. So with that in mind, those are
Yeah.
my two.
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Yeah. Good to see Burden get more involved, and man, DJ Moore is just not in the plans for this team at all. It's like not at all. So it's
So
disappointing,
sporadic.
but
It like they
yeah,
can't
it's
decide who they're going to
just
use a week in and week out. It's like, oh yeah, he should be the one. Oh nope, we're going to go with Burden actually because that upside's there.
yeah. I would if you can buy low, like if you play Dynasty and stuff, like buy low on Bears pass catchers in the offseason. I would. I just think like this offense, I really believe in Ben Johnson and like this offense, I think is it needed this season. Like I don't think we've seen it at its peak with the passing game in particular. So definitely buy low on those guys if you can. Um, yeah, wide receivers, it's not great either. It's not a great waiver wire week in general. I definitely like your picks for sure. I mean, AD Mitchell, I'll throw out there. It's gonna be tough though, man. If Tyrod Taylor or Tyrod Taylor is not gonna be out there, we still saw six targets but one catch for AD Mitchell. Still potentially add him, and if Tyrod Taylor's out there, then go for it. But other than that, I may bench him. Jimmy DK, I really just like DK a lot as a player. He's going to be an All Pro as a returner. I know that doesn't really help 90%, 99% of fantasy leagues, but if there is, and he's somehow still out there, I doubt he will be, but he is like winning people leagues. But we saw that we're seeing targets here. He has almost 20 targets in the last 3 games, 8 in last week's game. Didn't do a whole lot with him, but did catch a touchdown. I think he's always a candidate to get a handoff or two as well. Could score a touchdown in the punt return and hopefully get points for that. So I'll throw DK out there. Jack Mesh, rookie wide receiver out of TCU on the Raiders. Saw him get a little bit more involved. 6 catches, six targets, 6 catches, 50 yards. He played 82% of the snaps, so they're finally getting him involved. I was kind of waiting for it. Like, what are you doing, Raiders? Like, obviously it's a lost season. Like, let's go. Let's see this guy. I think he was one of my favorite prospects coming out. And so I'm excited to see what he does. And if they start to use him a little bit more, and if he has a little bit of a nice little 4 or 5 week stretch here, and you go back and look and like, oh yeah, like remember Jack Besh, and he was like wide receiver 20 in weeks 14 to 17 last year. Like it could be one of those, and get some hype for him next year.
Yeah, I mean, it at this point, I'm still just so surprised that people aren't playing DK as much. But I kind of understand it if you aren't getting those return yards because it's extremely frustrating
Yeah.
to see him score a touchdown and you not get the points for it at all. Fantasy, you need to fix this. I don't care how they score a touchdown if it's a touchdown. I want my 6 points.
Yeah. Yeah, that and like even the fumble recovered touchdowns like need to count and stuff like that. So yeah, 100% it needs to count. Like I know some people make the argument of like, oh, but if you start the Titans defense, you get like double points. It's like, well, yeah, but that's it's a very rare thing. Like having two punt return touchdowns is good in a year. So yeah, I agree. Score a touchdown, you get points.
All right. So Scott came back before we move on. Uh, so Texans defense going forward. Are there any chance you set him against the Cardinals, Raiders, or Chargers? I don't think you can.
Nope.
I think the
Nope, nope, they're
turnovers are
too
going to
good.
be there, especially for the Cardinals and the Raiders. Chargers,
Yeah.
it's going to be very iffy just because I don't know what that team's going to do, especially at this point. If they get eliminated, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of people just kind of sit just because of health. I would hope they
Yeah.
would be like, we're good. We can do some things to kind of see what our younger players have, but it's so risky to keep playing them.
Yeah. I think at this point though, they probably won't be eliminated by the time they start that week 17 game, But anyways, I don't really care too much. I mean, if you want to find a different option in week 17, that's fine. But 100%. I mean, this is the second best defense fantasy wise heading into this week. It was the Texans, and really they were right there with the Seahawks. Except the Seahawks had a massive 30-point game. Texans have been a little bit more consistent. And yeah, I mean, Cardinals and Raiders, you're going to get some points. So no, I'm rolling with them and no concerns whatsoever.
Yeah, and how do you listen to us? 5 weeks ago when we said you need to make sure you have the Seattle defense? Man, it's gotten even better with the fact that the Colts aren't going to have Daniel Jones. Like,
Yeah.
your numbers have just shot up so significantly that you're probably just going to be able to cruise with them getting double digits every week, more than likely. So, any case, Polo, that sucks. Had DJ Moore and Romeo Dobbs, gave him 1 point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I've had situations like that with like I think Lamar and Herbert the last couple of weeks in like super flex leagues. It's just like, oh, they got me like 10 points. It's not good.
Yeah. All right, Batch 82. Love Watson stack. Saved my week. Can I ride it in week 15 versus the Broncos?
Oof. Yeah, it's hard with Christian Watson. Like weirdly enough, like what I view Christian Watson as hasn't changed at all because like I know he's capable of this, but he had 4 targets and 4 catches and 2 touchdowns, and that usually doesn't add up. And so I'd be hesitant about that. I mean, I think I would try and pivot if I could. Love, I'm probably okay starting, but I don't know if I want to start both. How are you feeling about that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could get away from it, unfortunately. I think they have a lot of options. I would guess that Sertan would be on Watson, but who knows? I could easily see them also potentially trying to cover Jaden Reed or any of the other wide receivers. So it becomes you're definitely going to be playing Love no matter what. I think he is doing so well right now; it's too difficult to sit him. And Watson still has that opportunity to score. It would really depend on other options. So definitely need to come back later in the week, preferably Wednesday or Sunday. Wednesday we'll be able to go a little more in depth. We'll have time to have looked at the playoffs and how people match up, and so be a little easier to kind of go to. So, all right. Move into tight ends because we're done with wide receivers. I'm not messing with that anymore. Shouldn't be any surprise. I'm still going back to Juwan Johnson. I don't like how much his drop off has come lately with him not playing nearly as many snaps as he had been, but he's still up there, 45.6% rostered. I still really like him. However, I really like one of your names more. So go ahead and talk about the two tight ends that you're looking at.
Yeah, starting off with Likely, kind of a weird situation where it's like they give Mark Andrews this contract extension, and then Isaiah Likely game, where it wasn't amazing. He got a touchdown and all that, but still, he's always a candidate to have a boom week. Like that's who Likely is. He can have, a 5 for 95 is what he had in a couple weeks ago. If he gets a touchdown, like your tight end that you're streaming giving you 20 points, like you're winning your week. So I think he's always potentially capable of that. And AJ Barner, I'll throw his name out there. Elijah Arroyo, their rookie, who was playing a decent amount, has a knee injury. Barner is just one of those tight ends that we talk about all the time that just plays a lot. Theo Johnson's of the world. By the way, Theo Johnson's another one to throw on this list. Kate Ottens, Cole Kmet's, like I'm talking previous seasons and stuff. But Barner's one of those guys. I think he's potentially going to be out there quite a lot and could have a solid week because of it. So it's more of a low end tight end one option, maybe a top 15 guy. But if you're desperate, don't mind it.
So, one I like is Isaiah Likely because the Bengals are the worst team against a tight end. It's been insane.
Yeah.
You saw it this past week. Guess which player scored the most for the Bills this week? All three tight ends.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And while Knox didn't score a touchdown, he also went 6 for 95 or something stupid. That might be reverse. Well, maybe not. I think that's actually right. But all of them end up close to double digits, if not double digits, and all end up in like the top 20 at tight end, which is also including Jack Hawes, which is insane.
Jackson Hawes, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't understand it.
He's like a blocking tight end.
Yes, exactly. Still scored a touchdown. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh, so annoying. But any case, yes, I absolutely love that. If you are specifically looking for this week, I am playing. Also, the other thing, Flowers actually really struggles against the Bengals. So it's even more time to fire up the tight ends because they should be just fine in this game. So things I wanted to bring up and touch on because it is important to me. So, all right, out of tight ends into defenses. The one that I like the most this week, it's the Jaguars versus the Jets. Because, again, we kind of touched on Tyrod being beat up. We weren't sure how that ended up looking. And if he's out again, the Jaguars have been playing really good football, especially for their defense. It's just been crazy how surprising they've been over the past 3 weeks. 12, 7, 14 fantasy points for you. Well, I guess 4 weeks because I didn't include this week, but 11, 12, 7, and 14. So that's pretty solid, and definitely what you're looking for. So don't think you go wrong.
Yeah, agreed there. I also like the 49ers. Mentioned them last week. They were obviously on a bye, and they haven't been great this year. As of late, they have, heading into their bye, 6, 9, and 11 points in kind of standard scoring there, which is pretty good for a defense. But they were on a bye, and they weren't performing like the Niners defense of old. So they are pretty widely available. They are about 75% available across leagues here, and they're kind of a 2 week start for me. They get the Titans in week 15. Oh, never mind that matchup. Like, unless Tony Pollard decides to go nuclear again, then maybe I do. And then they get the Colts, who are, obviously in trouble here. So no matter who they start at quarterback. So you get a 2 week start here, in my opinion, for the 49ers, Titans, and Colts. And then you can kind of reevaluate when they play the Bears in week 17 if you want to kind of progress with them or pivot to someone else. So I like the 49ers this week. And I was kind of trying to see, like, if we could help if are people that are on a bye or something that like that week 16 as well, and the 40, that's why I chose the 49ers as well. It's like even if you're on a bye, you won your you earned your bye week in your fantasy playoffs, still pick up the 49ers because they have a really nice schedule there. So
Well, I mean, I don't. I guess I should look and see how available these teams are. Um, let's see. Where's my threshold? So Bills don't really like the Bills. Are the Giants down here?
Chiefs are kind of down as well. They play the Titans in week 16. Um, so if you want to pick them up for week 16, they play the Chargers next week, so I'm not super. That could be a low scoring game as well. So Chiefs are another team um, that you could use for the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play it risky, Saints are another one. We kind of touch on how Shuck has been playing, but they play the Panthers, Jets, Titans, Falcons, who have all kind of been struggling to move the ball, with the exception of the Falcons, who knows at that point. So becomes kind of interesting, but again, how willing are you to trust that? I'm not quite told it on it, but rather just go week to week or find two teams that I can go in tandem with. So all right, well, have anything else we need to cover or you want to touch on?
No, I think that's it. Good luck if you need some points tonight. Um, hopefully you get them. And yeah, hopefully the Chargers can pull this out. They can win two of their last, was it 5 weeks? I think they can. They're in the playoffs. It's going to be tough though because they have a really tough schedule. So
Yeah. I think
let's
they
hope
said it was the
sneak one
fourth
out
hardest
today.
schedule rest of the season. So I was like,
I'm
gotta
surprised
love
it's not
that.
number one. I'm shocked it's not number one. I
Yeah.
mean, Eagles. I mean, I guess the Chiefs record is down, but we know what the Chiefs are. Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. Like I would reckon that's the hardest, considering I know the Chiefs are technically under 500, but just two of those. Just need two of those. Broncos maybe rest in the last week of the season.
That's fine.
You win one of these other games.
Yeah.
We
If
got
we can pull
this.
off a win in any of these, I'll be extremely happy. But it's we're gonna need
Yeah.
help. So ideally we'd win this game, but we'll see. So all
Yeah.
right. Well, good luck everybody. As week 14 wraps up and we move into week 15, hopefully you started planning. Really appreciate everybody who came to watch this. We will be back again. So until next week, remember to keep up the nonsense. We will see you all next week.